is Hamlet, and welcome to the How to Spark Success series. I'm founder and director of Spark Succeed, and I'm a coach and business mentor. And in this series, I'm having conversations with savvy and successful business owners to try and steal some of their success secrets and find out, how they've been on their career journeys and, success and trials and tribulations. So today I'm delighted to have Tahirih McLaren-Brown, who is a mental wellbeing coach and also founder of Flourish Coaching and Mindfulness. So it's lovely to have you, Tahirih. How are you?
I'm good, thank you so much. I'm really excited. I've watched your other episodes, so it's quite nice to be on it myself. I feel like I'm in great company, so hopefully I live up to the expectations.
Oh, and I know you've been sort of practicing on and doing some video series yourself, so you can tell us a bit about that today, so that's fantastic. So do you want to tell us a bit about yourself, about your career journey, what brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, so obviously by my accent, I'm from New Zealand, but I live in the UK now, and I grew up in New Zealand, studied there, and I actually studied tourism management and Māori business. So I was really interested in Indigenous tourism development, but my big dream since I was a teenager was to move to London. So I got jobs so I could save money, because obviously you've got to get a bit of money behind you, did some travel and came over to the UK with a suitcase, and I knew one person, and I came over with someone else, and I found a house to live in and a job, and that job ended up being in marketing. So I really wanted to get into events as well, so I started doing marketing and events, and then London is really exciting when you're young, so I was traveling lots, which is really cool. That's the reason why I came over here, so doing lots of travel, but also like lots of partying, and I got into a bit of a crappy relationship, and then I ended up getting to a point where I was kind of on my butt thinking, oh my god, what am I doing with myself? I have got like no savings. I've had this like absolute disaster of a relationship. I don't really know what I'm doing with my career because I'm not that happy with what I'm doing. I loved where I worked, but it wasn't what I really wanted to do. And so all of that just kind of left me, I suppose, to like the ability to like clear things out and say, okay, what do I really want? And so from then I started looking into what else I could do, and it was probably about 6 months later that I was actually late on a flight that I was supposed to be on was late, so I was killing time, and I saw a life coaching course online, and I thought, do you know what, you've been wanting to do this since you were since 2013, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to join it and see how it goes. And so I started the course, and as soon as I started, I was like, oh my god, this is exactly what I want to do. And alongside that, I also was really into mindfulness, and I started doing that back in 2013 as well. And so that is just kind of like a practice I've built, and I've always been into personal development, so always like reading blogs and books and all that kind of stuff, and so it all kind of merged into one. And then I decided to start my little business, because I think when you study life coaching, you think, okay, now the next step is to have a business, which sometimes you don't actually have to do. You can work as a coach in a company, but I did that. And so last year I did some coaching and also business building, because when you're starting a business, there's so much to do and learn. And I also still worked full time. And then this year has been my year to, I left my full-time job in February, and I have been working part-time at my old job and also part-time doing coaching. So I'm in like a little bit of a baby business stage, and I've been focusing on corporate coaching. So I do workshops and mindfulness and meditation, and also coaching for companies around the UK. And I was lucky enough to leave my job at the end of Feb and then go straight into lockdown. So my big goal was to be able to go into workplaces and do it in person, because I really like speaking and I like people, but I've had to move it all online, which has been interesting, but also it's been a really good opportunity, because I think, and you've probably noticed as well, is that lots of people are now focusing on their well-being and focusing on their development, because I think companies have realized, like, oh, hey, we actually really need to look after our employees. So it's been a bit of a mix, but it's been an opportunity, and also kind of not what I was really dreaming of doing, but yeah, I'm really excited for the future and just going to keep going along that track.
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, people coming into the wellbeing space, a lot of times, like yourself, you know, perhaps have sort of hit difficult times, or, you know, health issues, or have sort of run themselves into a ground a bit with socializing or working too much, and sort of seen that actually there's a different way, and, you know, being able to balance that. And I think that's really key. I mean, you coming from New Zealand to London, I know that's a sort of similar familiar story for me, because my husband's from Auckland, and he's been in London for over 10 years now, probably about 12 years, I think. But he said, you know, when he got off the plane and like got the tube into London and came out of the tube station, he thought, there's some big event going on. Is it like a football match, or what's going on? But it's a funny time of day. It's like, you know, 8 o'clock in the morning, and it was just rush hour. And I think that sheer volume of people and, you know, rushing, and I think London particularly, and other cities, you know, that mentality of just sort of keeping busy, keeping going. And I think, you know, lockdown has actually, whilst it's been really challenging in a number of ways, has given some of that sort of time back, you know, that, and I found it myself, you know, not having to rush around so much for meetings. You can just, you know, actually have fit in more meetings, but actually, you know, with less stress and rush. I think that's really great. So for you, what do you think's been the biggest factor in your success?
So this is interesting, because I don't feel like, it's funny, I was actually listening to a podcast yesterday about the definitions of success and how we define success, and what they were saying, and it was actually a podcast about connections, and how like loneliness is a bit of an epidemic now, and how we need to have more connections. And they were saying, like, should success be judged on like what you're doing, or about like what sort of life you have, and how you are treating other people, or what sort of communities you have around you. And so there's part of that, but I was also thinking, like, oh, I've just kind of started my business and I don't know if I'm successful. And I'm like, how am I defining success? But I think for me, like, I would say that I'm successful because I am actually doing things that I want to do, and I'm always trying new things. And I think openness and positivity, and also just seeing opportunities, because I think the world's full of opportunities, and there's so many things for us to go and do. And so if you're always like looking out and looking in an optimistic way, then you are going to see different opportunities and different ideas and how they form. But I really think openness to new ideas, and to trying new things, and to having a growth mindset, like seeing something and thinking, instead of thinking like, oh, I can't do that, I'm not good enough to do that, it's kind of, I'm always like, right, I'll just give that a go. I'm that type of person who kind of like briefly reads over a recipe, and then I start really reading it when I'm doing it. And so that's kind of what it's been like for me in my business. I've just been like, right, what opportunities can I see? What ideas do I have? What strengths do I have that I could put into things that I want to do? And then, right, let's give it a crack. And I'm sure you've found as well with business, it's like you're always just dipping your toe in the water, trying this, or that didn't work, trying this other thing that's worked a bit better. And so being able to just be open to failure as well, because when you're trying lots of new things and you're building something new, or you're doing something out of your comfort zone, it's a real risk. You've got a real risk of failure. And really, I think coaching helps, because it really helps you reframe what failure means, and that you kind of define failure for yourself. But you have to be open to failing and thinking, instead of thinking, oh, right, that was such a bad idea, I absolutely ruined that, I'm going to give up. Thinking, okay, what did I learn from that? That didn't work, but what am I going to try this time? And so I think it's a lot about just being open to failure and trying new things and figuring it out. Like it's just figuring stuff out all the time. And I always like to say to people, like, nobody knows what they're doing in life ever. We're all just making it up. And so if you're kind of confident in yourself to just kind of make it up as you go along and get things moving, then that is going to keep stepping you forward in the right direction. And I think that that's what I've done all the time. I've just been like, okay, right, I want to move to London. I'm going to find myself a job. I really want to travel. Right now, what's next? I want to try this coaching thing. Okay, let's ask people if I can coach them for free. Let's make a website. Let's do all these things. And it kind of just builds and builds and builds.
Yeah, and I think that's interesting what you were saying, because it's exactly what I was talking about in the last two episodes, which was around actually what is the definition of success. And it isn't, you know, for some people that might be sort of running a really, you know, financially lucrative business and, you know, making, you know, 7 figures plus. For other people that might be following their heart. So my one episode that I speak to Bianca Penanti, who's a psychologist and psychotherapist, we talk all around the sort of how she uses autobiography in her therapy, and also how that can be beneficial for people within business and sort of building success, and also sort of like you saying, being that driver in your own life. So not just sort of following the sort of stream of life, you know, actually you can be in charge. So I think that's great. And I think, you know, I believe as well, I totally agree with you in terms of that, just trying things out, being bold, not being afraid to make mistakes. And I think Stephen Thompson, who I interviewed in episode 3, he was very much around his last piece of advice to everyone watching was make loads and loads and loads and loads of mistakes in business, because that's how you learn and develop. So I think that's fantastic. So for you, on a sort of daily, weekly basis, what are your success habits?
So something that like I said earlier when I was talking about how I got to where I am now, is that I'm really into mindfulness and meditation. And so one of my success habits is definitely meditation. And I never really wanted to be one of those people who like shoves meditation down people's throats, but I also think that everybody should be meditating. And I think maybe on a different episode you had said that you had tried it sometimes as well. And so I just find it teaches you a lot about yourself, and there's so many different, I mean, I could go rabbit on and on, but basically it really helps you to be able to observe your mind. And so that means like when you're a business owner, or when you're doing anything, there's obviously this voice all the time that's like, why do you think you can do that? Or like, that's going to be too hard. And if you can really step away from those thoughts and think like, okay, this is not actually me, and I can choose what I want to think or not, then that gives you a lot more power over your, not only just your mindset, but also of your emotions. But the other thing about meditation is that it's just a chance to create stillness. And I like to think of stillness as a time when you don't have to think, but it gives your brain like that space. You know how you might be driving or you're in the shower, and then all of a sudden you get this really good idea and you've solved the problem that you've had ages. That's what kind of that stillness gives to you. It's like let's all these other thoughts and all these other to-dos and planning and worrying and all that stuff, it lets those fall away, and then actually like the really good ideas and the things that you want to do bubble to the surface. So often, like, obviously you're supposed to be focusing on your breath, but this morning when I was meditating, I was thinking about this interview and being like, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen, and so thinking about ideas for it, and sometimes I sit there and I think, oh, that's the best business idea ever, and so then I go away and do it. And alongside that's something I do every morning, but I also have started in the past year visualization, and that I've found like really helpful. And I read this book called Psycho-Cybernetics, which sounds like a book about robots, but it's actually a book about mindset. I always think of like a robot on the cover of it, but I can't remember who the author was, but that talked a lot about visualization, and that's something that I do now, because really for me, like, what I think about is, okay, where do you want to be in the future? Visualize what you want in the future. And what it does is it brings you into that space, makes it clearer for you, because the more that you're imagining it, the more details you get about it. And when you've got a really detailed vision of your future, you know what actions you need to take to get there. But it also, it kind of tells your mind, like, these are the things that you need to focus on, so that you're looking out for opportunities, and you're looking out for things, like, even if you're just on social media, if you're like visualizing, okay, I really want to be eating healthy, when you're on social media next, you're going to notice like the ads for healthy things, or a friend who's done something really, you know, good with exercise and weight loss or something. And it kind of, so it tells your brain, like, okay, this is important, and you start looking out for opportunities. But it also tells you that you can do it. If you can step into your future and imagine yourself doing it, like, every day, it really tells you, like, actually, yeah, I can do this. I can see myself doing it. And I think it brings you into like this different sort of energy where you're like really excited to get into things. And so it kind of takes away a bit of the fear as well, because it's like, right, I am that person. Like, the person I visualize has got like short hair. I've been waiting for lockdown to end so I can get my hair cut. But I'm like visualizing someone with a bob, and I'm like, yes, this is it. This is who I'm going to be. And then every day I get into it. I'm like, yeah, I'm future Tahirih, and I'm going to go and do this. So those are the habits, the two habits that I do every morning. That,
and I think I did. It was in the Stephen Thompson episode that we were talking about. He is a Reiki master, and he does a lot of mindfulness and everything. You know, I think for me that's quite important. You know, I some of my mindfulness is listening to podcasts, but I also take time to do just a very short, like, meditation or mindfulness, just for like 5 minutes or something. Because I think, you know, like you, I'm someone that, you know, I've got lots of thoughts in my head, you know, there's ideas popping up all over the place, and sometimes just taking that time to sort of ground and calm is really important. And you know, it can be done easily, and it's not hippy dippy or anything.
And it doesn't even have to be meditation. It just, I've seen other people have it as thinking time. So literally just taking 10 minutes where you just go away and let yourself think about things. And that's something that's really good to like bring ideas up as well. You could just go out into the garden and go and like, it's getting a little bit sunny again, but like out in the sunshine or whatever, and just let yourself think. Like, when do you ever get the chance to like let yourself think about things without having to like all this other stuff happening?
And yeah, my other guest, Stephen, who I mentioned before, he was saying about he has thinking time where he just puts away, you know, doesn't have anything in front of him apart from a cup of tea. And his podcast called Tea with Steve, actually. But he said that's a prop of having something, you know, during my thinking time sort of really helps him. So no, that's great. So in terms of, you know, where you've been, your journey, if you could start all over again, what would you do differently?
This is tricky. I feel like I've just started. So I'm kind of like, but I think what I would probably do is listen to myself sooner. And I'm not sure, like, obviously I think everything that has happened has been really good. Like, I had different priorities because I wanted to move to London, and so I just got a job to get money and all that kind of stuff. But I think back in 2013, I'd finished 5 years at uni, and I'd graduated, and I thought, kind of want to do coaching. And then I was like, you idiot, you just spent so much money, and you need to like use your degree. And also I thought, like, hey, you're however old I was, you're 21, 22. What do you know? Like, you can't be a coach. You haven't had any life experience. And so I think, like, back then it was already stirring. And then for 4 years, I had it kind of simmering away, and I was thinking about it, and I kept pushing it to the side. It's not the right time. It's not, I still don't know enough. Your life isn't together at all. So why would you be giving other people advice? But I think if I'd like listened to myself then, maybe I wouldn't have started just doing coaching, but I might have looked into courses earlier, or I might have looked into doing other development things earlier, or looked at doing like a mindfulness course earlier, and then I would have picked up that, and I would be in a different position than I am now, because I kind of started just not that long ago. And obviously there were lots of other things that happened, but I know that back then inside it was saying, this is something that you want to do, and I just said, I'm not ready yet, and I pushed it down, which I think a lot of people do. There's a lot of people who've got things like simmering away, and they think like, I'm not ready to do that yet, or I'm not good enough to do that, or I'm not in the right life stage to do that. And then sometimes you end up getting to a certain point and you just like explode, because you're like, I hate everything in my life, what I'm doing, instead of like just listening to those little kind of like nudges telling you what the right thing to do for you is.
Yeah, and that's a sort of theme that's been coming up a lot with my guests, in terms of, if they could do it all over again, what would they do differently? It was sort of listen to my judgment, that I know, trust my planning, take that step earlier, be bold, because, often we sort of limit ourselves. And actually, I've just literally posted on Instagram this afternoon about doing something every day that scares you, and how that comfort zone, if you stay within that, it keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and you have to actually sort of work harder to get out of that. Whereas if we're sort of taking scary steps regularly, actually, that becomes less scary, and then you have to sort of actively seek the next thing that's scary. So I think that's really valid point.
Yeah, I think like the other thing is if you're getting into it, like you've just said about people with their limiting beliefs, is that we actually have a lot of blocks. And I read somewhere like there's nothing like starting a business to really like show you how messy you are and how many limiting beliefs you are, because you have all these beliefs come up with everything you do, like, oh, I can't, I've got limiting beliefs about this, I can't do this. You figure those out. You've got all these money blocks. Like, we've all got money blocks, and until I started a business I didn't know I had money blocks. And also, like, some people have the fear of being seen, so you think, hey, yeah, I really want to be a coach, and then you go to sell, or you go to like put yourself out there, and you're just like, oh god, I can't do this. And so like figuring that out at the start, and having either someone help you, or like helping yourself through reading lots of different things and figuring out, what are my limiting beliefs, what are my blocks? Because once you clear those out, then everything flows much better. And I definitely haven't cleared mine out yet. I'm every week I'm like, oh god, here's another one. But it's really like
them, that's half the battle.
I know, it's so like, and obviously like for you and for me, we help people find their limiting beliefs. But I'm sure you found as well, like you probably had a lot of blocks that came up when you're starting your business that you have to work through, and you're always trying to develop yourself to be able to take the next step in your life and your business.
Yeah, and that sort of temptation as a business owner, when suddenly you are the IT department, the PR and comms department, the legal department, accounting, in terms of sort of not just going towards your preference areas, and those comfort areas that that you like and enjoy and are fun, that you need to make sure you've sort of got a good balance in all areas. So yeah, definitely. So in terms of for you, what's been the best success advice that you've received?
So I don't know if I didn't receive this advice, but I've heard it from two different sources. Both, one of them's through a business course that I did, and then another one's just a podcast. And it is, clarity comes with action. And so I try and take that with me with everything that I do, because really the basis of that is you're not going to figure out what's right for you, or you're not going to figure out what you want to build until you actually start taking action towards it. And so you can sit there and you can plan and you can think, okay, this is what I want to do. No, this is what I want to do. You can form this big plan, but it's not until you actually start something that you start figuring it out. And there's another kind of quote thing that's like when you take the first steps, the path will appear. And I think that's what we kind of all need to do a bit more of, is to say, like, instead of just planning all the time and trying to get things perfect before we start, is to just start messy, get it out there, and as you take the steps and with what you're doing, you're going to discover more. Like for me, I started doing one-on-one coaching, and then I did at my work, I did a workshop, like at my day job work, I did a mindfulness course, and I always thought everybody needs to know about this. So I started like a lunchtime mindfulness club at my work. And so I did a workshop, and I thought, oh, do you know what? Actually, I really like doing workshops. And then I did some videos on Instagram, and then I'm like, oh, I actually really like doing videos. So now I've got like the YouTube series out. And I think when we just start taking action, and again, it's like removing that fear of failure, because it's just small steps, and being okay with one thing that I actually had a goals list this year, and it was in 2020 things I'm going to be shit at, and I wrote a list of things that I was just going to be bad at, because I was in my head so much thinking about it that I was never going to start. And so on that list was making videos, and so I hadn't even made videos at the start of the year, and now I've just put up this YouTube series. My first workshop, I was like, you're just going to have a crap first workshop, but you're going to do your first workshop. Sales calls, and this was back when we weren't in lockdown. So I was like, do you know what? You're really bad at sales, and you're going to have some crappy sales calls, and you're going to learn from them. And the last one was skiing, because I'd never skied before, and I learned to ski. But if we flip it like that and have, okay, do you know what? I'm going to be terrible at these things, and that's okay. And my goal is to only, for me, I said, I'm going to do 10 really bad videos, and then I'm going to judge myself on my videos. And so once you take those steps and you're not afraid of being terrible at them, then that gets you moving. And once you get moving, you get a bit of momentum, and you try new things, and you figure things out, and you get new ideas, and to things you didn't even know existed. And so, yeah, really from all the base of that is clarity comes with action. So you just got to take some action. And
yeah, and I know, you can get that planning paralysis when there's something scary that you've got to do or that you want to do. Especially people that are, traditionally sort of research based people, or, really research something, plan it, on paper, spreadsheets, Gantt charts, calendar, but not actually take that step. And often that's a wasted time, because as you said, once you take that first step, you realize that perhaps the path needs to change direction or look slightly different. And that's often just a sort of delay tactic, a sort of procrastination tactic of like, but I'm doing something towards this goal by planning, by researching, by reading, listening to all these podcasts about starting a business but not doing it. I think that's a fantastic one, definitely. And so it's been really interesting sort of hearing from you on that sort of mindfulness and also your journey. So have you got any final words for our viewers in terms of sort of advice sparking success?
Everybody should be meditating. No, not seriously, but also seriously. But yeah, I think, I suppose for me, like, I've just found that when you really have control over your mind, my whole motto is change your mind, change your life. So if you have control over your thoughts and your emotions, then the world around you doesn't need to change, but your perspective of it is the only thing that changes. And so once you kind of really learn how to observe your thoughts, have more control over them, and be able to choose how you respond to things. And that's what I'm really interested in. It's like there's the stimulus and there's our response, which is often like an automatic reaction. So, but there's a gap in between that, and how can we make that gap like bigger and calmer, and how we're able to kind of react or respond to things in a much better way and change our brain so that becomes our default. So I think if you are looking at, like, if you've thought about meditation or you've thought about mindfulness, just dabble in it, because there's so many different types you can do, and it's so easy to get started with, and it is just 5 minutes a day, really, and it's like going to the gym for your brain. So it takes a lot of time to get good at it, and you've got to really, maybe your thing should be, for the rest of 2020, I'm going to be shit at meditating and just give it a go. But yeah, but yeah, I think like if you can try that, it's going to really transform your whole life, which will transform your relationships or your business or your career or anything that you're doing. And so it's quite like, it's been a really powerful thing for me, and I obviously just want to like share the love and sprinkle it around for everybody, and so hopefully like in the future I'm going to be doing more of that, but yeah, give it a crack, because it's not that hard, and all you have to do is sit there with your eyes closed for 5 minutes.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. And obviously, any viewers that you want to try out mindfulness and meditation, you know where to look now. Someone to go that's a huge cheerleader for benefits of meditation. So, T, it's been an absolute delight to have you today, and such, really uplifting episode and discussion. And, your energy really comes through. So it's been fantastic to have you as a guest. Thanks so much for coming along.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz, and great work with what you're doing, because you, again, are also such an uplifting person, and you're also so generous with your time, with helping others. And so all this is really awesome. It's such a good resource for business owners, and I found the episodes so interesting, and as soon as they come out, I listen to them. So well done you, and keep it up.
Oh, thanks so much, T. That's fantastic. And join us for the next episode of How to Spark Success, where I'll be speaking to Viv Broughton, who's the author, but is also the owner of the Premises Studios in London, which is London's leading music studios. So they've got a number of famous names, almost like pages of famous names that have recorded there and rehearsed there. So it's going to be a really interesting episode. So join me for that. And once again, I'd like to thank today's guests, T from Flourish, for your time. And I'm going to go and do my extra 5 minutes meditation now.
Good. Cool. Thanks so much, Liz.
Thanks so much. Bye then.
Bye.